And welcome everyone to the Real Leaders podcast with keys from keynote speakers here at the Agents of Change Summit. I'm your host, Kevin Edwards. Joining me today is Kristin Groos Richmond, the co-founder and CEO of Revolution Foods. Kristin, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Rev Foods, you're an Impact Awards winner this year. We're excited to have you on the list. But tell our audience, how does this story go?
So Revolution Foods has been around since 2006. We started with exactly the same vision and mission we have today, which is to dramatically transform the quality of food that we were feeding our kids across schools in the U.S. We've expanded that focus to now serve whole cities, but we have the same vision, which is creating access to healthy, delicious, we call kid-inspired, chef-crafted meals, and driving academic and health outcomes through access to those meals and building a really powerful and exciting company to work for while we're doing that.
Well, I mean, as the CEO, when you say we started with this mission, this vision,
Yep.
and it hasn't changed, what do you mean by that? And what are some tough decisions where you had to sit back and say, no, we still have to go with our vision?
Yeah, I mean, I think that our North Star of working on the topic of food access, making sure that we could both serve students and families in schools that had been traditionally underserved, but also build a strong financial model while doing that, so that intersection of affordable meals at high volume, because we're serving a lot of kids, building a great business while we drive outcomes in a very unique way has been the same since day one.
I think for our audience, this is just for me personally, I'm excited to have you on the show because when I was studying social entrepreneurship, the video that came up, you were in it. And this is from 2010, before
Wow.
social entrepreneurship was really a big thing. And the question the moderator asked you is how come companies like yours don't get picked off? So the question is, if you're providing quality meals at high volume, how are you able to sustain that success?
Well, I mean, I think it all comes to building an authentic brand that your consumers and stakeholders value. So for us, I can give you multiple examples of entering cities across the U.S. where we were brought to that business through the community. So we were brought there by superintendents, mayors, parents, teachers who wanted better for their students and who said, you know what, the current options that are here and what I've been exposed to doesn't respect my community, it's not nourishing my community, and I'm looking for a brand that I trust.
Healthy food, to me, if you're someone that wants it in your organization, in your school, it's definitely an investment that you're saying, this healthy food is going to provide healthier brains for better learning. Yep. How do you track something like that to prove that this investment's going to pay off?
Well, so I think like any entrepreneur, you can't, it takes a little bit of time. So you sort of start with the obvious, right? Most families, most parents, most teachers, most principals, most mayors know that providing healthy food, for instance, making sure every child has a solid breakfast in the morning, is going to allow them to be more alert and focused in class. So you start with kind of the intuitive when you're selling into a system, but then over time, as you build a track record, you can do what we did, which is be lucky enough to partner with world-class research institutions like UC Berkeley, like Nutrition Policy Institute, like the Kellogg Foundation, who then do multi-year studies on the actual quantitative efficacy around your program. And so it took us 8 years to gather that data and to make sure that now when we're talking to a city leader, for instance, we've got that data in hand. But I wouldn't say we weren't at a stop before that, because most people knew that working with a company like Revolution Foods was the right thing to do for kids. But it's nice to have, as my board said, we now know what we knew, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So now you have, I think you said 1,500 employees.
Right.
What's so unique about your employees, and how, I guess, why are they attracted to your mission?
So I believe through and through that leaders, and this will come into my Real Leaders answer, that leaders who build brands with purpose and authenticity are going to win the talent war. So I think about the people who we've been able to recruit, who have, as I always say, we've sort of punched above our weight. We've been able to recruit talent. It could have gone anywhere, but certain folks who want to dedicate that next chapter of their career to something they truly believe in, where they think they can add a ton of value, bring their experience, and help further the mission of systems change in the area we're working in. And I've seen that time and time again, and it's been across finance to operations to marketing to legal, you name it. Every one of those categories of business leadership and recruiting benefit from a clear and authentic purpose. And then when I think about sort of the heart of our company, I think about the chefs and the drivers and the dishwashers and the production workers and the school account managers and folks who are coming in, many at entry-level positions and sort of working their way up in the company. They stay around and they help build the culture and they bring their friends and they tell their community, and it's a pretty exciting. It's almost contagious, if you will. It helps us across the board.
Well, are these employees and these chefs, are they from the local communities? Where?
Yes.
So maybe explain to us, where's the food made? How long does it take? And what do you determine or deem as fresh?
So we have 8 different commissaries, or what we call culinary centers, across the country.
Okay.
And across those 8 culinary centers, we are sourcing, producing, assembling, and distributing fresh meals every single day to the communities that we serve. And so that whole chain of production creates a lot of job opportunities, as you can imagine. So we're fortunate to be building a company that has the ability to employ a lot of people and create a lot of jobs. And many of those jobs don't require a high level of technical skill coming in, but really just require dedication, great commitment to training and to learning. And one of our core values is learn, teach, grow. So we're able to bring people in, promote them, build their career across the board.
And you labeled this supply chain as something that was a clean label? Okay, I've never heard that before. Maybe explain to our audience the difference between a clean label supply chain versus like maybe a Cisco or something like that.
Yeah, and Cisco and most companies now are at a place where they typically have different types of product lines and supply chains. So, but
so there's a big difference. Okay.
It depends on the company you're talking about, but Cisco's a distributor, so we will work with them, for instance, to access products where it makes sense. Okay. But in terms of our commitment, we are committed to no artificial anything. So the most common things you would see in kids' food overall, or any kind of processed food, often would be things like high fructose corn syrup, things like food colors, food dyes, additives. Those are things that we do not have in our food. We're committed to making sure that our food is all natural, has no artificial additives in it.
So these, who's making the decisions, I guess, at these schools to say, hey, I didn't really realize what we were really feeding our kids. I know when I was growing up, it was just like the taco meat and the stuff. It was god-awful.
Well,
but
you've got incredible leaders at schools today who are committed to high quality food. So if you're in a large school district, like one of our partners, San Francisco Unified, has an incredible team of people in-house who work full-time to think about, which menus they want to serve, the experience they want their students to have in the cafeteria. So it's not just about the menus served, but it's also about how students feel when they go into the cafeteria, and how appetizing is it, how appealing is it. So you've got districts that are making big decisions, and a district like San Francisco is focused on good food purchasing programs, so they want to work with a partner like Revolution Foods that values a sustainable supply chain and is focused on where we source. And then you've got smaller schools, and for instance, many charter schools we work with, or maybe a preschool program where they're entirely focused on education. They don't have a food service staff, and so they're relying on us for for the whole programmatic overlay, if that makes sense. And that's where oftentimes we'll bring in both school districts and individual schools will bring in nonprofit partners who might work with us on nutrition education or gardening or working with parents on menu design. So this is where I say it takes a village.
Yeah.
It takes a village, and we're not afraid. In fact, we love pulling in sort of cross-sector partners to come in and work with us on providing a great experience for the school and students.
Well, I thought the interesting part was like, you guys are making meals that reflects the culture in those areas. Like,
yes.
I've never heard of that. Maybe explain an example of this happening.
Yeah, so I'll give two examples. One is the community in Boston that we designed with, a community called Mattapan, primarily Haitian community, and just proud food culture, and parents and families who wanted to make sure that the food that their kids were eating in school was taking into account, is this culturally relevant? And so we designed meals in the Mattapan community. I also think about folks who we worked with closer to home in Chinatown in San Francisco, who admittedly said, your meal selections are great, but they don't reflect our community. And our chefs came in and worked at a school called Gordon Lau and designed a whole line of sunshine breakfast bowls. Breakfast bowls became an item that was offered more broadly throughout our whole platform. We worked in Denver to work on a special chile verde sauce that reflected, a specialty of Denver. In New Orleans, not surprisingly, we worked locally to design a jambalaya and a red beans and rice that the community came from local sources in the community that kids love. So really that design is critical to who we are, and making sure that students are having a great experience with the meal, and that our product is respectful.
Well, I'm sensing a theme here that you're working in marginalized communities. Has this been a business strategy for you, and where does the profitability come in this?
Yeah, so we have always been focused on creating food access across public schools in the U.S.
That's the mission, right?
That's our mission, and that, with a tighter cost parameter in terms of reimbursement rates, there's also a very large volume to work with. So when you do the math, when you're able to do that job very well, your price parameters may be tighter, but the volume you're able to produce and serve is big. It's a $20 billion market that we're addressing. And so it's, we've designed our model financially to serve the communities we're serving and provide a sustainable business model that works. And so you create that design around the mission.
A common trait of a lot of the impact leaders I've been able to interview is they're thinking long term. I think you even said on the keynote, it's, we're just getting started. And I noticed there was something in there about direct to family food suppliers for maybe a vision going forward. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Sure. So we're always looking at what we call adjacencies that make sense. Now that we've got the production capacity, the supply chain, the culinary centers, the distribution networks, the chef talent, the question is how much can we leverage that to have more impact and create a more robust business all the way around. So a couple of the things that we're looking at, one is we've looked at sort of direct to family, and can we work within our schools and our communities to get this quality product out to parents on a daily basis, and we're doing some sort of experimentation pilots on that. We're also looking at taking our fresh products into more of the grab-and-go sector, because if you think about convenience, for instance, we're staying in a hotel that has a little kiosk that's packed with candy bars and chips. You think about what it would mean to have fresh salads, fresh sandwiches, just really kind of basic but delicious fresh food. We're thinking about how we might be able to expand our reach to access the convenience sector. So we've got all kinds of things going on in terms of thinking about how we can expand our business and impact.
Now here's an interesting question. So you're expanding your reach, which means probably going to be a lot more shipping and distribution. As a mission-driven company, if your mission is to provide healthier meals, what about the global greenhouse gas emissions impact? Do you think about that in your decision making?
We do. Part of part of the way we're thinking about this expansion is actually leveraging our distribution more, meaning if we're already going across a city, if we're already running a truck, how do we fill that up? How do we make sure that it's backhauling properly so we're delivering on the way out and the way back? So it's not necessarily adding more trucks to the road, but it's using what we have in a much, much smarter way.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Kristin, I appreciate your time coming here on the show. I've learned a lot. I'm excited to have you. We talked a lot today about not only decisions that, well, or really what decisions are you making today that's going to impact tomorrow. So the last question I have for you, Kristin, is what is your definition of a real leader?
So my favorite saying as a leader is your values create your value. So I truly believe that leaders who have a core set of values that they are building a company behind, that are authentic and manifest throughout recruiting, supply chain, business development and partnerships, every part of the business. If you're living and breathing those values, my experience is that they tend to manifest in the actual financial value of the business, and the longevity of the business you're building, a place where people want to work. So my favorite types of businesses and my favorite types of leaders are very clear about that brand authenticity and value statement, and that lives and breathes throughout the organization.
Well said, Kristin. Your values create your values. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. For Kristin Groos Richmond, I'm Kevin Edwards, asking you to go out there and keep it real. Thanks, Kristin.
Thank you.
All right, folks, and thanks for watching this episode of the Real Leaders Podcast. If you want to learn more for leaders like this interview and you just can't get enough, go online to real-leaders.com/subscribe and get your first magazine for free using coupon code podcast25. That's podcast25, getting your first magazine for free on a 1-year subscription. See you there.